You know, that to me makes the Celtic fans different, special. They're there to party. They're there because they love their club. They love the community.
Coming up on the official Celtic FC podcast, Celtic legend Neil Lennon joins us to look back on his extraordinary career as a player and manager, and he also helps us build up to facing Lazio in Rome as he looks back on that special clash in 2019.
And there was a big huddle on the touchline. Go, oh my God, we've done it again. We've beaten them again.
This is the official Celtic FC podcast.
Hi everyone, yes, welcome along to the official Celtic FC podcast, the only podcast out there where you can get exclusive content from inside the Celtic changing room. I'm Ryan Marr and we've got a very exciting podcast. I'm joined by Matt Campbell. Matt, you looking forward to this one?
I can't wait. You know, I always act like a bit of a fanboy when we've got players coming in from the era which, you know, I grew up getting interested in Celtic, coming to the games. And we've got an absolute legend of the club, legend of that era with us today. So I'm buzzing.
Yeah, I've got a very, very long list here which I'm going to go through. So excuse me while I look down into my notes. We're delighted to join this man to the podcast. 23 years ago, he signed for the club as a player. And over his 7 seasons, he captained the side. He won the club's third treble, played over 300 times, won 5 leagues, 4 Scottish Cups, 2 League Cups. I'm stumbling already. Was a vital player in that run to the UEFA Cup final in 2003. He, of course, returned as a coach, first of all, in 2008. Then took temporary charge of the team before taking permanent charge in 2010. And over 2 spells with the club, he took charge of 339 games, winning a whopping 236 of them. He lifted 5 league titles, 3 Scottish Cups, 1 League Cup, delivered a quadruple treble, and was part of some outstanding European results. I think we all know who it is by now, don't we? It is, of course, none other than Neil Lennon. Neil, thank you so much for joining us on the official Celtic FC podcast.
Well, thanks very much, guys. I'll leave the envelopes with the money in later on.
Yeah, no, we did give you a wee text before this just to say it's not a bad roll call, that, isn't it?
It's something that I'm very proud of. When I first came here, I wanted to be a Celtic player, but I wanted to be a winning one, you know. And I very fortunate came at a time when the club was on the up, and I just had a fantastic sort of 14, 15 years. You know, it was amazing. And a privilege and something that is a huge part of my life.
Yeah, it's a level of consistency, Matt, which is pretty unheralded. And, you know, you were talking there just at the start about getting excited about having Neil on because it's someone of that era that we grew up supporting. And got any memories of Neil's time as a player in that early day?
Absolutely. I mean, you know, that era was so special because of how much we won, and you know, coming into Martin's team must have been just such a special experience. And you know, you were in a team with such wonderful players. But looking back, it's a weird one, you know, memories that stick out because you were such a key and pivotal part of that team. But when I look back in your playing career, moments that stick out, I don't know about yourself, Ryan, but I look back and think some of the goals that you scored, which weren't
many.
A
good memory.
But I look back and, you know, remember this? Maybe this wasn't, of course, Martin and Neil's era, but the all green kit scoring away at Dunfermline.
Oh, great one game, yeah.
I also remember you scored at Old Trafford as well, and Ryan Giggs' testimonial. I just remember the sort of look of sheer joy on your face when that ball hit the back of the net.
That was like a Champions League game, you know. That was the one where Sutty give Beckham a little slap around the head. We'd all put down money on who was going to get there first. And we're 3-1 up at half time, and you know, they had Van Nistelrooy and Veron playing, all these great players, you know, and we came out of the blocks and just blew them away. Yeah. And then Lubo went on and he scored in the second half, and it ended up 4-3, but there was like 30,000 Celtic fans, you know, behind the goal, and the atmosphere was just incredible. And that was a friendly, you know, but it wasn't played like a friendly, you know.
We used to go down there quite regular in pre-season.
We did,
down south, and
went to Fulham a lot, QPR, Tottenham, and then of course with the pull at Celtic have, you always get invited to testimonials, you know, Arsenal and Man United, and that. It was really, really good to go down to England with that team.
Yeah.
You know, because we'd all played in England. Well, a lot of us had played in England. Myself, Sutty, Tomo, Big John, and you know, we had come up. You know, it just shows you how much the game has changed in the last 25 years. We could compete with English clubs to bring players here, but obviously the TV revenues had such an impact on that. So it was brilliant going down there, and you know, in the Seville run, you know, you beat Blackburn away and we beat Liverpool away, and that always gives you an extra sense of satisfaction.
Definitely.
Like, you know.
Yeah, there's so many memories which we're going to get through. I think one of the ones that stands out for me when I was younger at the time, obviously your last game was the 2007 Scottish Cup final, and I remember you got subbed off in that match in the final against Dunfermline, and I can never actually know, was that Gordon Strachan giving you your chance to get an applause?
Yeah, it was sort of like, we sort of announced it a couple of months before the end of the season. You know, we'd gone out of the Champions League, we'd made the last 16 for the first time, you know, and we ran Milan really close, and I went in a couple of days later and said, look, I think it's time, Gaffer, you know, you got a new group coming in. I think Brownie was on the cusp of coming as well, which was fantastic signing for us. And you know, I was 36, like, you know, and I didn't want to be the old guy hanging around, and we agreed that would be the best thing to do. But it was like the longest 2 months of my life, you know. It was like death by a thousand cuts, you know. Your last away game, your last home game, and then your last game in the final, and lucky enough we won it, and it was a brilliant way to end my career with a double and playing in the last 16. So very grateful for that. And I went in I had a wee cry, like, you know, at Hampden, like, because no matter what you do as a manager, your playing career is the most important and the most special, like, you know. And that was the end of my time at Celtic, and you know, it had given me so much joy, and so much pride. So when you know that's your last time you'll be on a pitch wearing a Celtic shirt, you know, it took me a couple of minutes to sort of gather myself, and then TB come and put his arm around me and brought me back out, like, you know. And then, you know, thankfully we won. I was only in there for a couple of minutes, and you could still see the game on the telly, but I had the towel over my head and that, and I'm thinking of all the memories and that. And then Tommy said, come on, Lenny, come on out and watch the rest of the game. So we jogged out, and thankfully Joe Doumbé scored, I think, his only goal for Celtic, like, you know, right. And we ended up winning it, which was, again, you know, great for Gordon, you know, because he had won 2 trophies the year before, and then he won a double, and the last 16, you know, getting through that was amazing, you know. The night we beat Man United.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's interesting to hear that, because obviously you hear about all the wonderful moments through a career, you know, games won, trophies lifted, but I always think that must be so difficult, you know, that moment when you're having to step away, I guess, from the limelight almost. You have to step away from the noise of a crowd every Saturday, and like you say, the build up to that. Does that weigh heavy on your mind going into games, or is it? Or were you able just to push it to the back of your mind?
Yeah, I sort of, like, in hindsight, I wish I'd never sort of put it out. Well, we'd never put it out there, but we felt it was the right thing to do at the time. And then it is a bit of a slow process to see it through, like, and you go through so many different sort of scenarios. And obviously you have to play the games, and we did. I think, did we win the league? Won the league at Kilmarnock, do you remember? Naka scored the free kick. So there's still moments of just pure euphoria, and it's adrenaline filled, you know. When you look back, you sit there and you look back and you think of all the great games you were involved in, you think of the great managers, you think of the great players, and then you're thinking, that's it, you know. And it is a bit of you do have to make adjustments to your mindset and adjustments in your own life. Like, I did carry on playing at Nottingham Forest, but yeah, I mean, once you wanted to do yourself justice here, and we felt it was the right thing to do, but still a big sort of drop off, you know, in your life, because the club's your life for 7 years as a player, and every day there's always something to talk about. There's always something going on. You're in a dressing room filled with immense characters, talented footballers, some crazy boys, some young lads, you know. Some magic moments, some ups and downs. Like, you know, we lost 2 titles on the last day of the season, like, you know, and you're like, you know, how's that happened? But then when you don't have a trophy, when you don't have the league, you realise what you've lost, and then the next season you come back even stronger, like, you know. So after Seville, you know, we lost the league on the last day of the season. And then the following season, we were unbelievable. Yeah. I think we drew the opening game of the season at Dunfermline, and then we won the next sort of 26, 27. And we whitewashed Rangers as well. That hadn't been done for a long time. We should have made the last 16 that year, because that was Henrik's last year. We were playing some great football.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we're going to get a little bit more into your playing career, your managerial career at Celtic as well later on. But it's good timing you actually being here, Neil, because on Tuesday night this week, we're going away to Lazio to take on Lazio again. And it's a game that brings back so many memories, Neil. Celtic travelled to the immortal city, to Rome, where the last time we went there, 2019, 4 years ago, 10,000 Celtic fans, Olivier and Cham, yourself, were all head over heels in the Olympico. First of all, because it's again in all of our minds, because we're going there, take us back to 2019.
It was just, again, like, it's one of the best games, one of the best results of my career. We flew over a couple of days earlier.
Right. Okay.
Normally you go like the day before the game, but we went, I'm pretty sure we went on the Tuesday and the game was on the Thursday. And on the Wednesday we went to teacher priest.
Yeah, the Scots College.
Yeah. So we went there for a mass. Mm-hmm. And then we had a walk around Rome. We went to the Vatican, we went to the Colosseum. And it was the same feeling I got when we beat Barcelona, because it was 125th anniversary when we beat Barcelona. And the night before we went to the Carlton and had a ceremony at the church, you know, celebrating the start of the club really under Brother Walford. And I just had a wee feeling, like a tingle. And then I'm getting the same feeling again on the Wednesday. And then I go to the stadium that evening and it's beautiful, like the Olympic Stadium, pitch looked brilliant to do the press conference. I just felt, you know, we beat them last week or a couple of weeks ago. I think we can do it again. And you're right, there was like 10,000 Celtic fans.
Incredible.
It was like, you know, my playing days. I remember being at Anfield and Big John Hartson scoring, and all the Celtic fans were behind the goal at Anfield. But all around the stadium, there's pockets of green and white. You know, we get everywhere. Yeah. You know, we get in places drafts wouldn't. Anyway, there's massive Celtic support, making so much noise before the game. And then, you know, we got the team, had a quiet word with Fraser beforehand and said, look, you're good at this, you know, the big games, we want to be important tonight. And then we go out and we look like we'd never played football before for the first 5 minutes, 10 minutes. You know, we're under the caution. Let's get it right. Lazio were, I think they were second in Serie A. Inzaghi was the coach, Immobile on fire, and I think he got the first goal. Yeah. And then you're saying, just settle. Mm-hmm. Settle down. Maybe it's almost as if they needed them to score for us to come out and play. And then for the next 15, 20 minutes, we were great, you know, and sort of started taking the game to them. And we had good legs in the team, good experience, good quality, you know, with Odson, Elianusi, Jamesy, Brownie, McGregor, with a great midfield. I put Johnny Hayes in because Johnny had great energy to get up and down, and you needed that. You need that in Europe away from home. El Hamid, you know, was looking a real player at the time. And then we scored a great goal. Yeah. You know, Jamesy, like...
Some finish, isn't
it? Jamesy's, like, for me, he's a club legend, and he's one of them players who goes under the radar, but he always scores in big games when you really need him, like, you know. And Elianusi slipped the ball out, and Jamesy just goes bump, right across the goalkeeper. And once you get the goal, then the belief starts flooding in. And then, of course, you've got the crowd at the back of the goal going bananas then, like, you know. And the game to and fro second half. Could have went either way, you know. Fraser made a couple of decent saves. But we had chances, like, you know, Odson had a couple of great chances. And I just felt there still might be something in this for us. And Ollie had come on. And we pressed him, really good press. We win it. And then you're thinking, oh my God, he's in. And you're thinking, go on. And I thought he'd taken his touch a little bit too wide. But the finish is sublime. And you're looking at the clock going, 93 minutes on. Yeah. And we're just, there was a big huddle on the touchline going, oh my God, we've done it again. We've beaten them again. And it was just, I get goosebumps thinking about it because...
I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it.
But you know, when you've been a supporter and you know you've been a player, you know how significant, how big it is.
Yeah. It was the first win in Italy.
Yeah, but you know the ripples are going to go around Europe and that, you know, we've got a bit of respect here. This is where we want Celtic to be year in, year out. Now, whether it be the Europa League or whether it be in the Champions League, you want them to get the big results because it gives you that respect and reputation around Europe. And that's what's the most important thing for me as a player or a coach, like, you know, being on the big stage and competing and eventually winning. So that was just the flight home that night. Was, you can imagine how we're all feeling, like, you know.
Yeah.
And we ended up topping the group as well, which was magic.
It was an incredible campaign, which I'm sure we'll get into. But even just you going through what you were thinking on the sidelines, I was fortunate enough to be there, and what you said is exactly how I felt watching on as a fan, as Champs played through. And it's almost like 10,000 fans in that moment all just fell silent.
Holding their breath.
Holding your breath, exactly that. And then for the next hour and a half, I think we were still in the stadium, maybe 2 hours after
that was incredible.
match. And I remember you coming out after, actually after full
I just
time
wanted to
as well.
soak it up, you know, because it was just, again, very, very special, very unique. And only Celtic fans can do that, you know what I mean? And they just sang and partied like it was like the good old days.
Yeah. What are your memories of that, Matt? Is there anything that stands out?
Yes, actually, I wasn't fortunate enough to get over to Rome for the game because I was working. I was working at the club, here at the club at the time. I was working for the stadium tours department, and if you remember, that was an early kick-off that night. It kicked off like about 5 to 6 our time. So my shift finished. I went and got some food and took it to the canteen here in the stadium, and I'll own up to it right here and right now. Celebrating in Cham's goal, I broke a seat in the canteen into about 5 different bits because I jumped up, slipped, fell on top of it. I'm not exactly light, and smashed it up. But you know what? It was totally worth it. I sort of bundled it into a bundle in the corner. We'll try
and now someone's going to come back now saying that's the seat.
Sorry, we'll charge it to Cham. That's fine, don't worry about that. But it was just brilliant. See, I always wonder this because I was speaking to managers or whatever. If you shut your eyes, can you picture from where you were on the touchline? You can picture it in Sham going through.
Yeah, and then I got enveloped by the staff, Big John, Damien Duff, and then Woodsy and that, and just all in like a huddle, sort of spinning round. You know, just you see when people ask you, you know, why do you be a manager? You know, so stressful. It's those moments that it's the feeling. One of pure happiness and one of pure pride, you know, and
it's a perfect way to win as well. I mean, I know it's not good for the heart, but
well, look, many times it's happened to us over the years, so it was nice to turn them over, like, you know what I mean, and do it to them. But it wasn't like a smash and grab, you know. We were good value for, you know. I don't mind if we do smash and grab it, but it wasn't as if we were under the cosh the whole time. We were playing strongly and we were creating good chances, and actually, you know, we should have scored earlier in the half as well. You know, we had a couple of opportunities that we didn't make the best of, but we were always in the game and we looked good.
Yeah,
we looked a really good side then. Like,
so
you know?
many of our big performances and results in Europe, as you mentioned earlier about having that little word with Fraser, a lot of times you need him to have a big night. Now, he made some good saves, but it wasn't the fact that we relied on him to pull out save after save. You know,
that's what I mean.
Toe-to-toe.
Yeah, exactly. And I think winning at home gave the players a lot of confidence as well. And what we did in that game was we'd started 4-3-3 and they scored just before half time, and then they came out and they were strong for 10-15 minutes, and Correa hit the post. And I said, well, we need to change it. We matched them up then, we went 3-5-2, and that really worked for us. Like, so sometimes you got to adapt. And then watching the game here this season, I felt we were in total control, you know, and we let that one. The team certainly didn't deserve to lose the game, you know. You'd have been disappointed coming away with a draw because they played so well. And it gives me a lot of hope for Tuesday night. I think we can go there and win, you know. The team has shown they've got good character. I thought they were outstanding in the first half against Atletico Madrid. The 2 goals they scored were fantastic, and the pace that they played at. So I still think there's manoeuvre in this group for us still.
Well, here's hoping you're right. That home game, it's often the one. It's not forgotten. Obviously, the drama of winning away in Italy was extraordinary. The home game in 2019 against Lazio,
it's still the same drama, wasn't it?
Wonderful.
Goal behind and then scoring the 90th minute. The
thing as well in that game, it was Cataldi had the shot right at the end.
Oh yeah, the volley.
See, the thing is with that, I mean, it's one of the best saves that I've ever seen in the flesh. It's an incredible save, but it's almost a 2-for-1, because see, if that had went in, it would have been heartbreaking, but it would have also been one of the best strikes that I've ever seen in the flesh, because I mean, he's caught it. He could not have hit it any better. But it's just the big players in those big moments that make the difference, isn't it? You know, keeping that out and getting us over the line there.
You know, your goalkeeper's important, your striker's important. You always need to try and get a goal, no matter what the opposition is. But Fraser was really, Arthur Borich was the same.
Yeah.
He was really important, and Joe's shown he's capable of making important saves as well. But on that particular one, I was going to strangle Tom Rodgick if I had gone in, because I think he gave the ball on the halfway line away, and I'm like, Tom.
But as you mentioned, Neil, as well, what can't be forgotten in that campaign is that we did finish top of that group, and beating Lazio in Rome was match day 4, which qualified us. We then went into the next game. I think after 5 games, we were still undefeated. The last game, I think we lost against Cluj, but by that point, we'd already sealed top spot as well. And I know we're going to talk a little bit more about your spell as a manager and some of the big results, but what was it that you instilled in your Celtic teams that made us go and get those big results into Europe?
Probably the experiences that I had as a player. Mm-hmm. Martin and Gordon would have passed on those experiences to us. And then you actually do feel it in the game, But what I knew was we're not going to dominate games the way we do in Scotland against these, I wouldn't say superior teams, but they're quality sides. And we have to be a bit more defensive, good defensive structure, and have the capability of being a good counter-attacking team, which, we ended up doing. We scored 3 in Moscow, and with Samaras with a great outball in that group. And, with the second time around, you had quality players like Edward, Christie, Jamesy, with goals in the team and legs. You need to be able to get around the pitch these days, and concentration. You always need a good span of the team. Pace at the back if you can. So again, in the Barcelona year, we had Ambrose and Wilson, who were 2 flying machines, so they could cover, any sort of counter attacks against us. Good spine like a Wanyama, Brown. With Brownie and McGregor the second time, and good centre forwards. Who can nick you a goal. At the minute, we've got Kyogo, who's really found his feet in the Champions League now, which is brilliant for him. He deserves it. And you got obviously we had Odson, who was a pretty special talent when he was in the mood. But you got to give them the belief that they can go and do it. Yeah. And once they start to feel it themselves, they trust you, what you're saying to them then, and then they can experience what you're experiencing and go, oh, that's what the gaffer told us, right? Understand now, It's just little bits, snippets of, in the throes of the game, or, set plays, or just in general that they might experience, and then you have to let them go. Yeah. Then you have to let them manage the game as well.
Yeah. Let's touch on your playing career, Neil, because we're talking about the Champions League, and Celtic's Champions League journey begins with yourself as a player. I always feel like the kind of European journey of Celtic can be split up into 2, the 60s, 70s, 80s, and then you've got that 21st century period, which begins in Amsterdam and Ajax. You were there. I've actually got your stats here as a player, Neil, that over your 7 years, I think you only missed 2 games in Europe as a player, and I think for both of those games it was one pretty convincing.
I think Sadeva was one.
Yeah, it was 1-8-1 and then kind of rested in the next one. So you were there for every single one of these big moments over these next 7 years. But starting off with that night in Amsterdam, we go over there to Ajax in the Champions League qualifiers, and we win 3-1 and eventually qualify for the group stages. Did you feel how seismic a result that was at that time?
More the performance. It was a seismic performance. Because we played brilliant, and everyone was just on point. But it could have been more. And Henrik and Sutty as a front 2. Then a Gat was on fire. Bobby Pettit was on fire.
Talking about flyers,
and I just had to sit in the midfield, and my job basically, right, was to get the ball and give it to him, and if he gives it away, Lenny, get the ball back and then give it to him again, right?
Is this Martin saying that to you?
Yeah, that was my job, Look, I'll give you a story, right? You'll like this one. We're playing my first ever game at Ibrox. We'd already won the league. We'd won the League Cup. We're going to the cup final. And we're playing, it's after the split, you know, and we're playing Rangers, who were a really strong team, you know, they're great players. And we come in 0-0 at half time, but they're well on top. And he always came to me first if things were going wrong. He'd go, right, Lenny, what's going on out there? I says, well, we're getting outnumbered in midfield. You know, myself and Paul. You know, he's not doing his work. Who? Well, you asked me, Lubo. He said, oh, is that right? I said, I'll tell you what to do, Lenny, right? You and Paul, right? This is the Champions League winner, Paul Lambert. You run and tackle and get the ball to him. And he always repeated himself, run and tackle and get the ball to him, right? So we were walking down the tunnel and Lube was in front of us and me and Lam were going, easy little get. 15 minutes into the second half, 2-0 to us. Guess who scored both? Lubo.
Lubo.
And you're coming off going, that's good management. Done
the job. Brilliant.
So yeah, that was my role. And playing with these great players. And yeah, it was a seismic win for us. And then, you know, we had it was very tense here in the second game. We lost it 1-0, and but Ajax were a fantastic team, so it was no disgrace in that. But then to get into the groups, that's when everything becomes exciting. Then you know, the hard work is getting through the qualification stage. The group stage, when you're in it, you can enjoy it. Like, you know, and our first year we had 9 points and still didn't qualify.
I know.
That's one that really sticks in your craw, because you always go back to the first game away at Juventus and the Amaruso penalty. You know,
Martin went wild in
well, he was
one.
right though, because, well, if you had VAR, you never know with VAR these days, but everyone could see it wasn't a penalty. You know, we'd fought back from 2-0 down in Turin to 2-2 and looking like the team that was going to win it, never mind lose it, and then just an innocuous ball into the box and the referee gave a penalty, and yeah, that cost us in the long run, you know.
Clearly you would have been dejected at the end of that game, full time in the dressing room, because like you say, we looked like the team that were going to win it, and we get robbed. Let's be honest, we get robbed right to the death. Martin obviously has the famous interview after it where he's shocking constantly. What was Martin like in those moments?
Oh, you couldn't console him, like.
Yeah,
I mean, he felt the defeats more than anybody, you know, but particularly in the manner that happened, you know, he was inconsolable, and he was right though, because it was a awful decision. And we had sort of played so well. I mean, you have to remember that Del Piero, Trezeguet, you know, can't remember, Cannavaro was there at the time, and, you know, all these great, Edgar Davids. So to come back from 2-0 down away from home, and you're thinking, what a point this will be.
Yeah.
And he's thinking the same, and he's so proud of the team and the fans and the club and the way we've, you know, held ourselves, and then you get done by a shocking decision like that. And it just, you know, yeah, you wouldn't speak to him like for maybe the next day, you know, he wouldn't, his head would be down, he'd be frustrated, angry, all those emotions that you would have as a manager.
But then we had that famous night in the reverse game against Juventus in the last game. I think it was Halloween night, wasn't it? We would defeat them 4-3, and that must have been a pretty special game. And I imagine as well, as much as we didn't get through, a result like that must have given the team confidence in going into the next season.
Yeah, but we had the confidence, you know. We didn't like think, you know, who did we play? Porto, Rosenborg and Juventus. Yeah. We just let ourselves down a couple of games, Porto away and Rosenborg away. But the rest of the other 4 games we were excellent, like, you know. And it was our first year. And like I said, to have 9 points and not qualify is a real sore one. Like, you know,
teams going through with 6 now.
I know.
7. Yeah.
But yeah, that night was again, it's one of those great European nights, you know. Juventus in town, and, you know, Trezeguet, Lippi's the manager, you know, all these great players, and then the crowd has been starved of seeing this quality of team coming to Celtic Park and us competing with them, and then we go and beat them. Moravcik was unbelievable that night. So he scored an unbelievable volley. Henrik did his thing. Trezeguet did his thing. You know, he was a fabulous player, he was. But again, that's where you want Celtic to be, you know, competing on that stage, because we all crave it.
Yeah. What was, you're mentioning some of those players there, and I always say this, but it just brings such joy thinking about these wonderful players that played for us in that era. You mentioned Lubo, obviously. Talk about Lubo at Ibrox. What was he like day to day?
Oh, he was a joy.
Was he
absolute joy?
Yeah. Was he the same in training as he was on the pitch?
My first day of training was at Barrafield, and it was 11 o'clock in the morning, and I had to put the floodlights on because it was like the first week of December and it's snowing. And I was saying to myself, what have I come to here? Right? And then after training, once you've trained with them, you realise this is why I'm here. Yeah. He turned me inside out and outside in because he was so good with both feet. Yeah. And he'd pretend to go and cross it, and you go to block it and he'd check back, but sometimes you'd give yourself enough to balance yourself to go back, and then you go to cross it and you go that way and he'd check back again and he'd be away, and you're like that. Nobody ever done that to me, you know what I mean? And then he had dynamite in both feet, with his shots. He scored a goal at Easter Road one day.
Left foot.
Do you remember it?
With arguably one of the finest Celtic kits ever.
The white one?
Brilliant. What a jersey.
What's a goal that was? Because I was screaming at him to pass it to me. And I'm like, Lubo, get... Oh, what a goal. It was one of them.
He's driven it in pretty much left.
It's like, I don't know if you ever see somebody hitting a 5-iron, it just goes like that.
Amazing.
And the goalkeeper just, no chance. Mm-hmm. But you think of this little guy, the power. Yeah. And he could take corners with both feet. So he take a corner from that side and then swinger. Then he go and do it from that side.
Score from them.
Left foot, I remember him, free kick he scored against Motherwell. Andy Gorham was in goal and he was saving everything. The next thing, the wee man steps up and bumped top corner. So yeah, he was a joy, and he was a great guy to be around. I never seen him lose his temper.
No,
he just loved playing football, and he was great for us. The only disappointment for him was in the first year that we won the treble. He got injured in the cup final, and had to come off. But I didn't know much about him until I come up here, and he was class to play with. He's one of the best number 10s I've seen.
Yeah, we're going to kind of keep running through some of the seasons, Neil. And of course, after that first year in the Champions League, it's in the 2002-2003 season, which started with some disappointment, wasn't it, Basil? But then ended in Seville. What comes to your mind just when you think of that season? There's so many memories, there's so many amazing games, but what sticks out to you?
Well, for a start, we were rock bottom after Basel, because the expectation was built, and you're thinking, it's so funny when you look at how you felt then to where we ended up. Football can take you some places that you don't expect, and it's a great sort of learning experience as well. Sort of like every round after Seduva, we were the underdog as well, until we got to the semi-final. We were favourites against Boa Vista, and they were the hardest team to beat, believe it or not. Obviously Blackburn, that kicked it off, and they were a really good side. I mean, they had York Cole, Damien Duff, Brad Friedel. At the time they came to play us, they were third. They just beaten Arsenal at the Old Highbury, and they were a right good team, and they were the better team here, but we managed to win it 1-0. And then of course you had the old men against boys quote, which was just like manna from heaven, for Martin, you know what I mean?
Did you use that, yeah?
Stuck it up on the wall, and there you go. And then I got to tell you this, guys, and this is, again, Celtic going to England. Blackburn couldn't handle our fans.
Yeah, right behind the goal.
It's a little northern town, right, with a lovely stadium and that, you know what I mean? But there was thousands, it was like a pilgrimage. Yeah. And they'd never seen anything like it. The place was packed out, and of course, again, pockets here, massive behind the goal, but just green and white. And you remember the yellow kit we wore as well, pockets of that. And of course, we got off to a great start in the game. Henrik capitalised on, I think somebody slipped and he just dinks it over Brad Friedel.
Was it Hartson and the defender slipped together? And then,
is that what it was?
It was, when you look it back, it's
like
weird.
A mirror image almost.
It's almost like the defender sort of mirrors what John Hartson does, slips, and then Henrik 1-on-1. There's only going to be one thing that happens.
We battered him. We were a really professional performance, and so he got the second one, I think. And it was just a brilliant feeling. And then that gives you that little, the juices start flowing then. We're onto something here again. Mm-hmm. I mean, some tough games. Celta Vigo were a tough team. They were home and away. We had to rely on Big John. He scored a great goal in Vigo. That was a really tough one. Stuttgart, we were well clear. We're 2-0 up away, and that was like 5-1 on aggregate. So, indeed, he had run a mock that night as well. But obviously, the next one's the Liverpool one, which is another standout occasion, And played well here, 1 each. again, totally written off. You know, Battle of Britain, England v Scotland, there's only one winner. And Martin did a team talk that night that had us really bouncing out the door. And again, we played fantastically well, and in the end could have won it by more. And then again, it's that statement, you know, this is Celtic. All the English media all of a sudden are going, wow, they're a really good team.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? They're really good. They've just beaten Liverpool convincingly, and that hasn't happened for a long time. A Scottish team beating one of the top English teams. And of course you can imagine again the ramifications with the fans and the feel-good factor starting to build, like, you know. And then of course we get to Seville through really 2 tough games against Boa Vista. But of course then there's the humour, because when we come back from Boa Vista and we're playing Rangers on the Sunday. I don't know if you boys will be old enough to remember Beach Ball Sunday. But some of the scenes there, boys, like, you know the roundabout at Ibrox? There's a guy plonked right in the middle, right, on a deck chair with a vest and a knotted handkerchief, right? And the bus is swinging round and he's just there with a scarf around and waving at us, like. Then you see guys walking up with crocodiles and like women in bikinis and just. And we ended up winning that one as well.
Yeah.
You know, it was just awesome.
They're like glory days, aren't they? Even reflecting on that. I mean,
but it was fun. The fans loved it because they got their pride back on the big stage. You know what I mean? Martin and the players and that. I was proud to be part of it. We're giving a lot of joy back to, because we'd suffered for you know, a good sort of 20 odd years, like, you know, and now we were back on the big stage, and you can see what it meant to so many people.
I mean, I know we're sort of going to continue rolling on here. I could honestly sit here and just listen to stories of this era, you know, forever. That Liverpool match at Anfield, you know, I've heard so many times players from that team speaking about Martin pre-match, and you know how the referee was basically chapping at the door trying to rush the team out, but Martin was delivering the team talk. I know the dressing room is, you know, sacred, and you know a lot stays in there, but can you give us any insight into what Martin said?
No, because Henrik talks about it, but again I can't remember it, but I do know that you could hear a pin drop and you could see it in him. You know what it meant to him. You know, he wanted to put one over on the English as much as any of us did, like, you know what I mean. And I can't remember exactly what the vocabulary was, but you just know with him, and I'd seen it so many times before. He could make you feel 6 foot tall. He could also make you feel that big if you annoyed him, like, you know what I mean. And that was the brilliance of him. You know, his man management, and knew what buttons to push, and he also knew the players inside out. You know, and he also knew how to put a team together and the individuals that were required, and then it was fun. He made football fun. And we had brilliant characters, and you can imagine how difficult it would be to manage Henrik, Sutty, you know, Big John himself, Lambo, you know, massive egos. You could have give the armband to any Jackie Mac. There you go.
It's a team full of leaders, isn't
Bobo, there you go. You know, Johan, there you go. Take the armband today. And he had to manage all that. And you know, him, Robbo, Wally, they got it down to a fine tee. But yeah, I can't remember the actual words, but I just know the feeling of walking out there going, yeah, we're up for this.
It was just so important. I honestly never forget the scenes in my living room that night when John's shot goes into the top corner. It was just unbelievable.
Well, listen, you have no idea how it felt for me, because I'm right behind it. And as soon as
your pass?
I played it in them, but John still had a lot to do. No, I think he actually played a 1-2 with Henrik, didn't he?
Of course,
I played it in them anyway. And do you know what, right? I'd give him a rollicking about 3 or 4 minutes earlier. I'm like, John, you get hold of that ball. You shut up. I'll have you by the neck. And then the next thing, bump, and I'm right behind him. Bang, top corner. He comes running over to me, goes, thanks, Lenny, I needed that. I needed someone to razz me up, like, you know what I mean? Pat me on the head and that, like, you know. But I was right behind it. We go 2-0 up and, you know, boom.
It's done.
Done.
Aye.
What a moment.
Amazing.
And like, just for the next 15 minutes, it was just all Celtic, like, you know.
Brilliant.
We're taking over Anfield, like, you know, and it was just done.
Yeah, and then the feeling in Boa Vista as well when Henrik scores that goal. I mean, it's just pure emotion, isn't it? That whole season.
So good.
That's the biggest regret, not winning it, you know, because at 2-2 in the final, we were in control. And he deserved it because he was magnificent. Like Henrik he's the best player I ever played, but he's very special, not just because of the volume of goals he scored, but he scored the goals. You know, when you really needed him. So semi-final, quarter-final, Rangers, cup finals, it didn't matter to Henrik.
Yeah.
You know, he prepared every game, but that night he was special, and he deserved, out of all of us, to win it. And at 2-2 when he got the equaliser, I think it was from Tomo's corner when we got it here. And they were a right good team, by the way. They won the Champions League the next year. We just felt, you know, this is it. We'll take it into extra time if we need to. It's no problem. They're on the ropes here now. And it just got away from us in the end, unfortunately.
Yeah, because in that following season in the Champions League, it was a last minute, again, a dubious penalty, I think, against Lyon that knocked us out and stopped us from advancing into the knockout stages. But as you mentioned there with Lyon, with Porto, who then went on to win the Champions League, was there a feeling at all with yourself in the club at that time that could have been us?
Yeah.
We
needed to get out of the group, and we were 1-0 up in Bayern Munich, lost 2-1. Shouldn't have happened. And then we beat Lyon. We hammered Anderlecht. Then we lost on Anderlecht. That was a massive blow. How we did it, I don't know. We were down to 10 men. They were down to 10 men, and we somehow let that. We didn't play great on the night, but we let it go. But we still had it in our own hands. We were 2-2 in Lyon, 5-10 minutes from going through. I think if we'd have gone through, we got Real Sociedad. Would have fancied our chances over 2 games against them. But what I'm saying to you is we were even playing better that season than we were the Seville year. Domestically, we were rampant. And in Europe, we murdered Lyon here. We're 3-0 up again Anderlecht at half-time. You know, we just blew them away. We just couldn't get a break away from home. And then, obviously, the penalty award in Lyon killed us, like, you know.
Yeah.
And then we go and beat Barcelona in the Europa League.
Yeah.
You know, and then we lost a very good Villarreal team, like, to be fair. They beat us well in Villarreal. They had Riquelme and Pepe Reina and Belletti, who won the Champions League with Barcelona a few years later. But yeah, I mean, in terms of Europe, it's always that feeling of one that got away, you know.
Yeah. And then we'll kind of move on, because we want to get into your managerial career as well. But just in terms of that last season in the Champions League, Neil, that you had under Gordon Strachan, which we finally got into that last 16. And I think we'll all have our memories, but the one that of course stands out is that match here against Manchester United. Nakamura scoring the free kick, Artur Boruc saving the penalty. In a way, what actually stands out more for me is aftermath. Nobody knew we qualified.
No.
Yeah. Were you the same?
Yeah, I got interviewed after the game and the guy went, "You know, you've qualified." I went, "No." So, very special. I mean, again, you know, I can only be in Gordon's shoes, what it meant to him. Yeah. You know what I mean? And obviously, you know, beating his old manager on the biggest of stages. And we played really well at Old Trafford. We lost 3-2, and our home form was fantastic. Beat Benfica again, a bit like Martin. We couldn't get a result away from home under Gordon for whatever reason, like, you know. But we won all our home games, and that was enough to get us through. But I remember the penalty. They gave handball against Sean, I think. Yeah. And Saha went to put the ball in the spot, and I walked over and booted it away. Just to put more doubt in his mind, and said to Arthur, "You'll see this now." And I got a yellow card for it, which I didn't mind.
Best yellow card.
And I walked out of the box, and Gary Neville went, "He's going to miss this now."
Really?
But again, Arthur, big moments.
Yeah. Big
goalkeeper. You need that. You know, without him, we wouldn't have qualified. You know, without Naka, big moment. You know, Naka did it down at Old Trafford as well, where he beat Van der Sar with a free kick. He was amazing on it, like, you know. And with a decent team. You know, it's a bit of an unheralded team, that one. It doesn't get the recognition I think it deserves. But not only did they do it that year, the year after, Gordon did it again. It's incredible.
I know, it is incredible. And just to kind of round off this part with your playing career, Neil, the stats that I'd read out, you only missed a couple of games, which I think is incredible consistency, and particularly the fact that you were saying when you left Celtic in 2007, you were 36 and you were still going strong, playing the last 16 of the Champions League. And in a wider aspect as well, looking at our record in Europe at home, during your time, we played 26 games. We only lost twice and once in the Champions League. What was it about Celtic during that time with yourself as a player that made this place a fortress?
Well, we had a fantastic team, first of all, and then that support. It is phenomenal. I get goosebumps when I think about it even now. I get goosebumps, watching old footage of us walking out and the music comes up, and when you hear that roar, you just elevates you. Now, these days teams don't get intimidated by opposition. It doesn't matter. What they give to us is far more important, you understand? Mm-hmm. And it's special. And that's why I love us being in the Champions League. I love us being on the big stage because we crave that. Like, the Scottish League gets a bit laughed at or whatever. You still got to win the league. It's so important. But for me, the two ultimatums are winning the league and then, forging a reputation in Europe, because that's the blue ribbon event, and that's what the Celtic fans throughout all the generations want. We first British club to win it, so we have a special history and it's important for us.
Even look at right now as we're sitting here, we're reflecting on games that are 20 years ago or whatever, but as if it was yesterday, because they're so special, they're so important, they mean so much to so many people. The majority of Celtic supporters, certainly that I'll speak to, yourself, Neil, they're big memories. They'll be European nights,
Like I look back on it with so much fondness and pride, but the Seville final, we had 100,000 supporters there.
Yeah.
100,000, not one arrest. That to me makes the Celtic fans different, special. They're there to party. They're there because they love their club. They love the community, and I want us to maintain that level of camaraderie throughout football. And I do think that the glass ceiling will be broke one day. I do think we'll get through to the last 16 again, and hopefully somebody will take them on beyond the last 16. I do think there's another European trophy in us, whenever that will be, who knows, but I'd love to be there to see it.
Yeah, well, let's now move on to your time as a manager, Neil, because again, we don't want to gloss over this, because you came back and did you deliver in Europe? Well, you absolutely did. Again, the stats read you played 62 games in Europe, you won 29, only lost 23, but at home, again, played 30, won 19, drew 3, only lost 8. An absolutely incredible record when you came back with so many big nights. First European away win, the Champions League in Spartak Moscow, of course Barcelona, last 16 as well. Before we get onto that season though, I wanted to ask, the season prior to that, we got into the Europa League for the first time, and I was wondering, was that an important step for the team at that point before then going into that following campaign?
It was. We were lucky because we had lost to Sion, but they had played ineligible players or something like that, so they ended up getting thrown out. But when I took over, it was like we were going down the younger route, so you're bringing in your Fosters, Hoopers, Joe Ledley, Adam Matthews. Later on, the likes of Chris Commons were brought through, Jamesy. So it was a relatively young team. And Wanyama, he was a kid, So it was like giving them a platform and building for, the next couple of seasons, which is what we have to do, and that was important, the Europa League. We competed quite well with Atletico Madrid, I think Rennes.
And Udinese,
And Udinese, brilliant. Yeah, I think we got a draw on Udinese.
Yeah.
I think we
against Rennes and Udinese,
Yeah, we beat Rennes here. And then Atletico beat us twice. I remember the game here. Courtois was the goalkeeper, and that's one thing about Atletico. Whatever you say about them, like they've always had amazing goalkeepers. Courtois, De Gea,
Falcao,
Oblak, So they're a right good team, and this is pre-Simeone. But that experience did them the world of good. Then we win the league. Of course, that's a massive psychological lift for everyone. So again, the qualifiers are the most pressurised ones and the most nervous because they come so early, and you're playing against teams you sometimes are 10, 12 games into the season, and they can be dicey. But getting into that, it was all part of the build. It took us 3 years to get where we really wanted to get to. At not, a massive cost either. But what we had was a good young team with talent, and that's what the club wanted. And this current team is a young team with talent. And they can build on. Brendan can build on this, if he sprinkles it with a bit of probably needs a little bit more experience in certain areas, but it's got the makings of an exciting time again, like, you know.
Yeah. And then going into that Champions League campaign, we're not actually going to talk too much about the Barcelona game because you've just done something else for us for that. So we'll leave that for that little bit of content. But I think actually two of the other games that obviously really stand out were the ones against Spartak Moscow and breaking that duck away to Europe.
Yeah, that was massive.
3-2 win. Samaras scores right at the end. The only thing that ruined it is you had some stupid
purple
bib on.
Remember?
Yeah.
It was because it was black, right? And
that's right. We were wearing a black, a away kit.
We were in the black kit that night. That's right. Yeah, but I loved that wee tracksuit, right? Because it had the Irish sort of the green, white, and gold, and then big Celtic on the back, and I loved it. Like, but the fourth official came over and went, "You have to wear this." I'm like, "I'm not a sub. I'm the coach." He goes, "Yes, but you clash with play." You're like, "Oh, all right, whatever." But it was this massive stadium, you know, with a track around it, and there was a pocket of Celtic fans away up at the back. But again, like, you know, it was a great experience going to Moscow, and we were staying in what they call the Seven Sisters, like the skyscraper hotels. Right. You know, it was amazing. You go up onto the first floor. There's an actual Rolls-Royce garage on the first floor. You know, it was opulent to say the least. But again, we had a good feeling about it, and it was an AstroTurf pitch.
Yeah.
So we're a little bit worried about some of the players, you know, and the reactions they'd have. So I don't think Joe started that night. I went with Victor definitely started, and we got off the great, scored a great goal, and then we go 2-1 down. But they were a good side. They were slick, but you always felt that they were defensively vulnerable with the players that we had. And then I think Hoops gets in and to bring him down, the guy gets sent off, and then I bring on Jamesy, and he scores, like it's going in, the defender puts it on in, and we get it to 2-2, and we're thinking, it's a good result, game on here. Yeah, it's a good result. Yeah. But they're down. We can win this. You know, and then Sammy, of all people, scores a header. Yeah. But he was a big player. He liked the big games, Sammy. I don't know, you remember him at Ibrox when we won 2-0 and we were depleted that day, and he basically beat them on his own. When he was in the mood, like, he was unplayable. Yeah. And he liked the big games. You know, going away to Ross County, he wasn't. You knew after 5 minutes, so he's not in the mood today, like, you know. But in the big games, and certainly the European games, I watched him play at the World Cup for Greece in 2010, and he played against Argentina, and he was brilliant. And I thought, God, we've got a player here if we can just tap into him, like, you know. And for him to score a header, like, because he wasn't the bravest in the air, like, but again, what a magic moment that was. And then coming back on the plane, it gave us 4 points in the first 2 games, so it gave us a platform. You know what I mean? That's what we needed, you know. And it because the back-to-back games then with Barca after that, but to get 4, because the Benfica side were good under George Jesus, and in the end, you know, you're that sort of inexperienced. You're going 0-0 at home to Benfica. God, that's not a great result, but actually it was a pretty good result, like, you know what I mean, because they were a good side. So yeah, winning in Moscow was very, very special.
Mm-hmm. And then we obviously have those back-to-back games against Barcelona, narrow defeat, unbelievable victory. We go to Benfica with a chance to qualify. We just don't manage to get that over the line, and it all falls down to that final game at home to Spartak Moscow. What was the pressure like? What did you feel like on the day of that game?
Well, I mean, my thoughts straight away, this is the way a manager thinks. Like, you know, so you beat Barcelona, right? My thoughts straight away are, right, Lenny, you've beaten Barcelona. You got to qualify now. So all you're thinking about straight away is Benfica away and Spartak at home. We got beaten Benfica, but we put on they were good, like, they were slick. We got it back to 1 each, but, you know, they were just better than us on the night away from home. It was a narrow defeat. So you know you're still in it, and you have to win. Yeah. And you knew that Benfica were going to the new camp, so they weren't guaranteed a win. But we were thinking, Spartak Moscow at home, come on, we can, you know, we've got this. And again, like, got off to a great start. Hoops scores a really good goal, and then they equalise because they're quality players. You know, the best player at the time was Aiden. Yeah, you know, we did a lot of analysis, and Aiden, you know, was the best player, and we tried to, you know, keep him out of the game as much as possible. It must have been difficult for him coming back to Celtic Park as well. And then we get the penalty. So I think Sammy wins the penalty, and Chris, he's got great technique, you know, slams into the roof of the net.
I couldn't watch it though,
I couldn't, because it's so pivotal. And then you come away with 10 points from the group, you're thinking, wow, That is terrific. But, looking at the Juventus game after that, we're just beaten by a far superior side over the 2 games.
I think the stat that actually blows my mind in that campaign, Neil, is that, I know it's ifs, but if we did manage to hold on in the new camp and get a draw, we would actually finish top of the group that season. And that's incredible. That is honestly incredible to think of the group that we had. We still managed to qualify on 10 points. I mean, it's incredible to think about that. Like, what was it about that team? What was it about what you managed to get out of that team that got us those 10 points?
Well, they were good players for a start. They were great. They were fit. We got them fit, which you needed to be because you're playing, tough games in the Scottish League, and then you're playing the really intense games in the Champions League. With a great goalkeeper, with a great captain in Brownie, who there was good spirit, but there was quality. We scored in every game apart from the opening game, the 0-0 against Benfica. So we knew we had goals in us as well, and that gave the team a lot of confidence. But I think, the catalyst was obviously beating Moscow in Moscow, and the significance of that, and we just felt, we keep a couple of them fit. Wanyama was special, really special player. And he went on to prove that when he went on to Southampton and Tottenham. And a great bit of business again from the club. You had goals in Hooper, you had goals in Commons. You had Jamesy, he was, young and dynamite. And with the likes of Lustig and Matthews, who were really good players, good defenders. And like I touched on, these boys are a little bit underrated by the Celtic fans at times. Ambrose and Wilson at the back were phenomenal. Like, they could deal with anything, pace-wise. Effie was comfortable on the ball. Kelvin was a really good defender. So the balance of the team was good. We felt once we got a bit of pace at the back that we could do something.
Yeah, I'm sure actually after that Barcelona game, there was like a picture of Effie trying to get in a nightclub with his full Celtic tracks. I think that was actually my favourite thing of that campaign.
It's probably the only time Effie's ever been to a nightclub. You know what I mean?
I don't actually know if he got in. I just remember it doing the.
I hope he didn't. He's a terrible dancer.
Where have you been tonight, pal?
Hello.
Pinned in.
And then actually that following season, Neil, we get back into the Champions League. You spoke about the qualifiers and getting through those. Shakhtar Karagandhi. I mean, that first leg, my memories of it, I'm sure it was like a really early kick-off over here. It was like 3 o'clock or something. You had the travel going over there, the plastic pitch. They had a team of Rory Delap's throwing long balls in. I'm sure that was Virgil's first start as well.
Yeah, it was.
And I can remember coming away from it, and this is how much I know about football, going, God, I don't know about this guy. I don't know what we've got here. He
had a wee injury pre-season, and we actually, we shouldn't have lost the game 2-0. We should have scored a couple of goals, and we got pilloried for it. But we had also sold Hooper, Wanyama and Kelvin in the close season, and that sort of annoyed me, because that's the spine of that team basically gone. Your goals, your centre-half, your big number 6, who's, at that time, European class. Anyway, felt again, Celtic Park, anything can happen. And we knew they were a big, strong side, and these Kazakhstani teams are improving all the time now. Even the national team now, I know we're going back 10 years, but they're all right. But we knew that they lacked a bit of substance and didn't have to chase the game, but we felt we needed to score first half, and we ended up Commons produces a worldie, and that was it. Then we felt, right, 1-0, big crowd, everything on it. They're going to drive us forward second half, and that proved to be the case. And then Jamesy came up with another massive goal for the club, and then I was like Michael Flatley running down the touchline.
That run in you.
It's just, again, we talk about the qualify. You just want to get there because the whole season opens up. It means everything to supporters. The players develop, I develop as a coach. It's just getting there is the hard bit. And once you're in it, then anything can happen. Unfortunately, we got Milan, Barcelona and Ajax, so it was your sort of proverbial group of death. We only ended up with 3 points out of it, but we actually played well in Milan. We only lost narrowly 1-0 here to Barca.
Yeah.
And we're down to 10 men at that stage as well.
With a great chance in that game as well.
I think Charlie Mulgrew had a good chance,
at the back post, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
And
was it a header or a...
It's like the ball come into the kind of back post and he's running into it.
He's definitely at the back post. And
that was at 0-0 as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, and he could, it's probably easier just to put it in the back of the net at that point. But I mean,
you tell Charlie that.
I know. Right? Next time he's in here doing commentary,
got that.
Yeah. I'm going to bring that up one day. No, but I know what you mean. It was a big chance, and that again, goals changed the game. It could have been different. It was a tight game in Ajax. We lost 1-0, but it was a hell of a difficult group, you know. And with the quality of players that we'd lost from the year before, we just had to make the most of it. But beating Ajax here was again, important.
Overall, Neil as a player and then as a manager has been there through pretty much my favourite memories as a supporter, and those big moments. We were speaking about it as a player, obviously, but even you're talking about the Karagandhi game, like the explosion of noise when that ball hits the back of the net. As a supporter, it's fantastic. Obviously, seen what it meant to yourself, the sprint up the touchline to celebrate. At moments like that, let's even talk about that game. Like when you go back in at the end of a match like that, it's obviously elation. Everybody's happy and whatever. What do you say to a team at that point when they've achieved something like that, like getting to into the group stages or having pulled off a massive win in Europe?
You just tell them how proud you are of them, and they don't realise what the significance. I keep going back to that. What it means to you guys, what it means to people around Glasgow, and all the supporters around the world, because we are a proud support. We love our club to the nth degree. The Celtic fans amaze me. They come in their thousands week in, week out, and the happiness that brings to so many people. They're in a very unique position where they bring a lot of joy to a lot of people. So I try and emphasise that to them. And when you've won a game and you're going into the Champions League, it's so exciting. You're sitting there waiting for the draw, and you're in pot whatever, and out comes that one. You go, I hope we don't get that one, you know what I mean? Then the next thing you see Celtic being drawn out, and you're like, wow, fantastic. And then every draw's, amazing. And then what's going to be here. 60,000 right behind the team, almost trying to suck the ball into the net. And then when you do score, they just bedlam,
Yeah.
And I have been very fortunate and privileged to enjoy those moments from a really sort of good seat in the stadium.
Touchline position.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And experience, unbelievable highs. That's the thing, though, when things don't go so well, there's no grey areas, lads. There's amazing highs and really big lows, and you have to enjoy these a lot more when they do come, just because the more success you have, the expectation is always there, and that's the nature of being at a huge club like this.
Yeah, and hopefully now you're having a chance to enjoy the games as a Celtic supporter.
Yeah, I've loved it. I've really enjoyed. I was heartbroken with the Lazio game. Really enjoyed the Atletico game at home. I thought the boys were brilliant. And then it was here for the Aberdeen game where they played great. So again, you're starting to see, improvements. And what this team has and what they've shown over the last, few years is the character. They've got great character. They handle the pressure well. And that's down to we've got great coaches. We've had Ange before, and now we've got another great one with Brendan. So the future's looking good again. Yeah,
definitely. Well, Neil, we're going to finish off on one final question for you. Just before we do that, we're going to be doing a competition. We're going to get you to sign a shirt. And for anyone listening or watching, all you need to do is send in a screenshot to the Celtic View Twitter or at Celtic View, Celtic View at celticview.co.uk with you showing that you subscribe and download to the podcast. And if you do that, send it in, you'll have a chance to win that shirt that Neil is going to sign for us. But final question, Neil. You've got a kind of burning building, but on all the games are kind of stored in CDs or DVDs, and you've got the chance to save 2 from your playing career and 2 from your managerial career, one of which has to be for the overall performance, that on the park you were just a better team and got the result, and one just for that feeling at full time. What would you go for?
Do you remember Sutty scored the chip?
Yeah.
when we beat Rangers 1-0.
The last minute of the green and whitewash.
The whitewash. Yeah, because that hadn't been done for I don't know how many years. It was a brilliant way to finish the game, and you know, we dominated the game and deserved to win it, but you know, in that fashion. And Liverpool away, you know, that was pretty special, like, you know, and the significance of it. As a manager, obviously Barcelona stands out. You know, I could go Barcelona and Lazio. You know,
go for it. You can take what you want.
I remember we beat Rangers 3-0, and Hoops scored a couple.
Yep.
There was one where Emilio goes down the left wing and he slides it, and Hoops comes in and slides in.
Chris Commons get the other goal in that game.
I believe so.
Was it Chris where he dinked the goalie?
Yeah.
Was that game? Yeah. Because
we beat him twice. You know,
we beat him 3-0 twice.
Fall into one another.
There was one where Hoops scored a couple of really good goals. One he takes a pass Weir and he slides a pass McGregor. Do you know what? I can't remember who got the third goal that day. Was it Sammy? But as a manager, that, you know, I should say that one, but I'm not going to. The Samaras won at Ibrox, I think, because we were so depleted, and no one gave us a chance, and we won 2-0 that day, and he was great. The team was great, so I'd say that one, and obviously Barcelona as well.
Good, brilliant. Well, Neil, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you in and to go through all of those memories, those incredible memories you've made our afternoon by going through it all. I hope you've enjoyed.
I have. It was great to see you. Thanks very much. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you for coming in, and hopefully we get to see you a little bit more around Celtic Park. Thank you so much.
Thanks, boys.
Thanks, Neil.
Thank you, and thank you all for listening and watching. Hopefully we can get a result in Lazio on Tuesday as well. We'll be back with the official Celtic FC podcast later on this week, but make sure you like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and send us a screenshot, and you might have a chance of winning that signed Celtic jersey from Neil Lennon. But thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you again soon. Hail, hail.